and she works for Culture. You run the digital media lab in Park, in Newcastle, and Brigitta is going to speak to us tonight about her artworks. Am I right?
Yeah.
I'm not going to talk too much about your work in Newcastle and things.
Yeah, could be, but
that's
lots of
point is to talk about your things. So.
yeah, sure. Can you read it? Yeah. Okay. So yeah, I just actually I've been based in Bristol for a while, and then for quite a while now in Newcastle in Cardiff, which is as an interdisciplinary lab, and if you have some time, just look it up because it's a very good environment, and I'm quite happy to work in there because there's a big bunch of people who are doing HCI, so human computer interaction, and the other part, the digital media one, which is more kind of experimental aspects and kind of artistic and design aspect that we work with technology. I'm going to be a bit more conceptual when I introduce my works, and it won't be very technological because the technology behind these things is quite complex, and my methodology is working collaboratively, so I have computer science people on my team, and I'm working with them quite closely to produce this quite complex works. And my interest is really, as I said, this is why I ended up in culture. I really wanted to be in an environment where there's lots of different things happening, so social sciences, design aspects, art aspects, and of course the theory part is quite important. As you see, I have a PhD, so that really transformed my practice in a way that I become much more reflective. So how I produce works is much more really thinking about first the experience itself, so what kind of experience I want to produce through technology, and my aim is really to just thinking about it. I think I tried to describe myself just a couple of weeks ago why I'm doing what I'm doing. I've been an artist for quite a while now, and really what I'm interested in is how we can recover or discover new kind of dimensions of human experience or human cognition, which we never known before. And I think technology maybe give us new aspects to kind of access new kind of information about ourselves. And you know, my kind of philosophy is very much not to look into the now, but maybe produce a vision which really transforming people's thinking or life even in the future. So very much, you know, have a particular vision, and my work, I think, show that. So what is my recent work is about is really combining art, technology, and psychological aspects. So I'm trying to extract, trying to understand human experience from scientific approaches as well, but also from philosophical aspects. So try to really create a critical discourse around this, around these things. So you know, just thinking about this. Why I, on the first place as an artist, started to work with technology, because I was really interested in interaction, and what technology can give us is really, that is a dynamic quality. So it's always, interaction is something what I can dynamically design. So compared to something more traditional is as an image, of course, that you have a psychological aspect of interaction, but with technology you can actually change through the state of the technology, so changing the state of the technology and the state of the human perception as well. So it's a very dynamic kind of loop, what I'm interested in. So the question is how interaction as a very technological aspect become aesthetics, or how we can think about interaction as a kind of artistic aspect. And one of my first works which explored. Well, I've been working with interaction for quite a while, but this was a more complex work which explored the kind of experience and how we're producing experience, a new dimension of experience is mirror space, which was a virtual reality system. So I created this real-time visualizations, and each of these objects was linked to a person. You can see it here. So people created for themselves a kind of mirror image, which was an object, a complex object, which was based on two types of data. One is the facial aspect was read, and the other one, at the same time when the person entered the installation, dynamic information from the internet was gathered, and these two aspects visualized. I'm going to show you a video quickly, just that you see the quality is not the best. Is job. This is why I don't like to. Okay, so So basically the person moved into this slide, was scanned, and an object was generated which was very particular for the person. And of course the kind of, the idea was really to represent the person not as a physical mirror image, but much more as an interconnection with other aspects in the reality. So it's really giving a complete different understanding of identity and how we can see ourselves in the world, the way. And of course the object moved with the person, so it was like a mirror image, so it got smaller when you went more far, and then closer when you approach the screen. And the kind of aesthetic aspect of the interaction was very important. So how the object looked like, and what kind of very different identity you could create with this. So
which parameters was it working on?
It was weather information from all over the world compared, and the facial recognition will be used infrared image, so temperature.
Like the face
yes.
of the person,
yes.
and temperature map
yes.
of the face.
Yeah. Which was not easy to manage to take to different kinds of installation. So yeah, so basically it's when you know the data visualization system, which are visualizing, for example, internet data, is a lot of kind of network visualization which look very similar, and I think it's quite interesting that kind of tendency to represent ourselves or represent any kind of information as a network kind of object, which gives us a much kind of a different aspect of very kind of existence or life even. So the other important thing was then, of course, from interaction, I find that designing experiences is something which I do as an artist. So I'm thinking about the experience itself. I'm not thinking about the technology. I'm not thinking about what kind of concrete values, sizes, or colors, but much more what I would like to achieve in the human experience. Is one example which I find quite useful, which was a locked-in syndrome woman. I read it in a news scientist. There was a woman who knew she's gonna be locked in. That means that she can't move her muscles. There are some people who can't even move their eyes. Most of the people they can, she couldn't. And when she knew that's going to happen to her, she planned a way of communicating with her family. And that was that she would imagine milk or lemon. And with that, they would measure the pH value of her saliva, and if you imagine lemon is a completely different pH value in your mouth than to milk, and this is how she would say yes or no. I think is an amazing example. Of course, it's not always reliable. I don't think it's actually was reliable very well, but I think it's just give you an example how designing the experiences or thinking about the experience through the body can give us a completely new aspect how we think about technology as well. So in that sense, I rethought aesthetics and really just moved away from the old kind of traditional comprehension of aesthetic, which was about a set of principles concerned with the nature of appreciation of beauty, and really moved on to the new understanding, which was from Mark Johnson's book. If you can just get his book, because it's an amazing eye-opener, where he defined aesthetics something which goes into the human capacity to make a kind of new type of meaning. So we can create meaning not just through beauty, but much more through the body, and kind of creating a new experience through embodied kind of experience. So that means that the body as part of the experience is really important, and this is when I started to look into reading the body and try to understand the person through kind of using technology to understand the emotions and try to create meaning through linking particular meaning to particular emotional state of the person. So that means that you see that actually emotion is always involved in, of course, in art appreciation, and it's something what is always part of it. But now is I'm actually reflecting on it in real time, and I try to drive emotional states in the experience very consciously, and I'm designing that. So that was my aim with the new work. So in that sense, I arrived to the concept of aesthetic interaction, which is kind of developing meaningful or creating meaning through embodied interaction. And I hope to achieve through this a more kind of meaningful human-computer interaction, because it might be actually not it might not reflect very well this image, but the idea is that I try to think in ecologies. So the technology was always something which driven every kind of experience what technology created, and I try to explain interaction much more as an ecology, that the human being and the machine and all of the other aspects of the interaction is on the same level. So we have a kind of a more kind of democratic way of organization. So and this is why I try to think about the experience rather than what kind of technological aspect I can improve or change, and then I see what's happened with the experience. So in a way, this is why then I try to create environments rather than just objects, and I try to really influence the whole experience of the person. And this is then, I created this big scale installation which is still in development and is went through a couple of versions, which I describe as an aesthetic ecology because it's trying to achieve a very complex interaction. I use the kind of feedback mechanism, so I try to read particular emotional states of the person, and I try to react to this in this environment. So let's try to explain that. So the image what you see, I have a kinetic sculpture, which is the cupola itself, which is a dome-like environment, which is really reflecting the kind of architectural idea of the dome, which is there to produce some kind of immersion. So the person moves in under this sculpture, and that moves to the height of the person. And why is that important? First of all, that is, the person is completely immersed in this environment, but the other aspect is that I have an eye-tracking machine in front of the person. So what I'm doing, basically, I'm reading the eye here somewhere at the front, and the person looking at a quite big scale visual display for this size, probably what you see here, and interacting through the eye movements, basically, so controlling movement through the eye. The cupola itself is include a sound system. Then you can see the heating system is on, so it gives a tangible feedback like cooling and heating. So there is a kind of cooling fans in the cupola itself, which are very closely related what's happening on the display itself. So the person is not just having feedback on the visual display, but also in the cupola itself through sound and through cooling and heating as well. So it's a kind of multi-modal feedback mechanism, and what I try to achieve with that is a kind of full controlled experience. What you're gonna see here, this is a much earlier version. This is probably 3 years ago when we first set up the demo of the work, and yeah, this is more, I don't like playing with those in PowerPoint. It is on Vimeo, you can look it up in a better version. It's just playing it this way because of the PowerPoint. It's just useless to play with those. Anyway, that was just the first kind of demo version of the visualization. So the particles, what you see, the particle system visualization, what we visualize there, they're following the people's movement. And the new version is now, here you just see the whole kind of construction of the cupola itself, so what kind of electronics is in there, and what kind of feedback mechanism is in the system. So this is, then I started to, of course, look into eye movements, and of course, you know, eye movements as a feedback mechanism or just controlling something on the big display is one thing, but to understand them is a different thing. So I started to look into understanding how eye is working, and whether I can extract any kind of emotional aspect of the person. And of course there are many interesting aspects, but probably we wouldn't even know that it's very difficult to represent how we see. This image of course is struggling, but we only see in focus on one particular small part of the visual field. All of the other aspects in a kind of blurry area. It's not really blurry, but you can't see it in detail. And how we look is, of course, is quite important because the eye is not moving smoothly, so we always jumping all over the place, so we can't stop actually moving our eyes. I won't go into this in detail, but you can actually read my paper on this. But it's very important actually what we're looking and what is the purpose of looking. For example, here you can see a view of a kind of expert judgment review of a medical image. So if I would look at this image, the kind of scan part, which is the lines around here, would look completely differently. And all of the dots is where the person actually focused more, and you can see what kind of examination is happened on the image. So the scan part is really that just how we look and where we look and where we focusing more. And I would wanted to go beyond this scan part, which is a very static image, and wanted to really understand the eye itself in real time. This is an amazing work actually by Yarvus, who is a Russian scientist who lived around 40s, 50s. He was the first person who really investigated how we look and how the scan part really looks. Is the actual eye tracking, what we're using, the eye tracking image. Is an infrared technology, which is very, very accurate. So that means any little movement you can actually see, and that's give a very good control of the visual field and what the person do in the visual image. So to understand the affective state or the emotional state of the person, we use a model which is called PADs, pleasure, arousal, dominance model. That means that we evaluate the people's eye movement, but also the pupil movement, what people can't really control, and blinking rate as well, so how people blink, and producing this model, which then give us a more, a more kind of inclusive understanding of the person in the interaction. So with that, created some little example. This is a Voronoi graph, what we build in processing where the person looks. There is actually the whole kind of structure is getting much more kind of dense, and that is quite interesting to see the dynamic of the eye through such an application. This is just really the application what we use. So it's a scientific model, which is important to understand in a way that we have a better understanding of the person. And what am I doing? What am I doing with that? That we link that to. You saw the particle visualization at the beginning. Now we actually link that to a much sophisticated visualization, which tries to simulate swarm behavior. This is a fish board, but we also are visualizing bird flocks and insect swarm. And according to the behavior of the swarm, that is representing actually the person's emotional state. So we're measuring it through the PAD model, and then and then really link it to a visual display, which are very sensitive to the emotional state. But at the same time, of course, you're still controlling the swarm. For example, if you look that's moving with you and you have to do a particular task, it is a predator in the image. So it's a very engaging, but at the same time beautiful kind of engagement. But of course, we also give you guidance, so representing how we understand your emotional state. So I just want to show you one last thing what I just did, a data visualization project, but really just to kind of wrap up is, in my work is how I use technologies is, I'm not really interested in the technology itself, I'm much more interested in the experience. So in that way I'm not hacking technology just to kind of use it differently, but much more try to combine technology which have a new type of understanding of the human experience and really just try to trigger new ways of engagement. And I think that is important that I just say that this critical understanding towards human condition rather than hacking technology, which is very interesting. I find it very intriguing, but from my point of view is not very interesting. I'm much more coming from the conceptual part. Just a very recent work what we did in Culture Lab, because this is one of my other interests as well, to look into data visualization, of course, and how we can introduce kind of really just try to understand. It's actually the same type of approach, really just give people a new understanding of life and how they're interconnected. So we've been commissioned by Newcastle and Northern Stage, which is a theatre there, to represent the city dynamic itself, and we used traffic data in Newcastle. You can see the map, so each kind of organic object have a particular map on the top, which represent the place and the traffic data on the actual place. And this object really grows just according to the traffic data which is coming through in real time. And as you see, it was projected in a huge kind of HD projector on the building. Really just people really just, just stopped by and looked at it and tried to understand. Of course, this is some visualization that you have to actually read and engage with it first. But it was really just to give a new aspect on the city's life and what's happening in the city other than your first person experience of it. So I think I close by then, but the project, what I just showed you, the micropole, is going to be finishing in July with a completely kind of new setting, and hopefully you can experience it at some point, because it's very difficult to describe something which is created to be experienced. So I'm going to try to make sure that it's exhibited in different cities. Probably going to be shown in fact Liverpool in next year. So thank you very much.
Yeah, but one, like Simon earlier was talking about collaborating with more technical-minded people. Is this the way you go about your work? Or?
Yeah, I mean, it's quite complex to set up. It's amazingly complex. So if I just would go through just the electronical aspect or the programming aspect, I think this would take ages. Yeah, so as I said, I have a vision, and this is what I see in front of myself, and it's quite difficult actually to communicate that with people who are more kind of technological, because they only try to kind of simplify it and make it quite reductive, what we don't really want. So yeah, it's a kind of collaborative model, which for me, this is how I can work, and I kind of enjoy it, but it has lots of kind of difficulties as well when you have to deal with.
How big is the team?
It's always changing, and at the moment is 4. Well, with me. So, but I'm just working on another project, which is it's a bigger scale kind of installation, which is dealing with the space. There we are like 15 people, yeah, so it's difficult. Well, I kind of enjoy it. So I don't have here. Of course, I have a leading role. There, I'm just dealing with the visual aspect, and it's a different approach again. But I kind of see the big scale and the complexity that is really interesting me. So if you're putting together different kind of technologies, what new we can create with that. So.
With the orb which lowers down, was there any sort of Wizard of Oz stuff going on there, or was it all fully automated?
It's automated, it's a sensor in it. No one is kind of sitting behind, pushing the button. It's really interesting because in the 60s, Myron Kruger, who was one of the first artists who've been dealing with the interactive installation, he actually done a project like that. He tricked the people. He was actually sitting behind the screen, and it was a very kind of good user test, how people react. And I love the idea, I mean, of course, the wizard in HCI is also the wizard test method where they just fake the interaction just to see whether it's going to work or not, whether they should bother or not to build it. So, but I'm really interested to bring, the HCI approach, which is now established. It struggled for quite a while in computer science because they didn't want it to acknowledge as something, a proper scientific approach. Now I think it's time that the kind of more artistic approach is understood in HCI, so a kind of much more better cohesive model, what I would like to describe. And in this example, when we're using scientific method to evaluate the person, which is of course still quite reductive, because then you're still measuring emotional states with the machine. But I link it to a particular meaning, and that is how I get beyond the kind of productive approach, I guess. So. But anyway, anyone is interested, papers about this, but as I said, the artwork itself, it has to be really experienced, because it's an amazing experience just itself to interact with your eyes. It takes time to get used to it, and it's very weird at the beginning, but then you learn it very quickly, and it's very easy because it's part of your body. So it's of course then the whole kind of experience with the sound and the other aspects is really giving you a very different type of experience.
Have you gathered feedback from people that have experienced it as to what they felt once they've been in there?
Well, we are not so far that with the new system that, but yeah, I'm planning to actually do a proper user test. Although I have to say that most of the user test studies which been set up for HCIs would fail, because they evaluate experiences mostly quite based on quantification, like for example, how was your experience from 1 to 10, or is very socially or culturally evaluated. So the subjective experience itself is very difficult to evaluate because there are no measurements. You know, how do you feel? I mean, the thing was you can say, yeah, I liked it or I didn't. So, but the whole process of the experience, you know, even a person who is used to self-reflection is quite difficult to describe with words. So the languages limit us as well. But yeah, I'm interested, you know, to look into new methods, and I think that is a challenge for HCI as well, for science basically. So, but yeah. Hopefully no HCI person gonna watch this presentation because they're probably gonna fight with me, but yeah, so I'm very much interested in this interdisciplinarity of thing and bringing all of this together. And it's very difficult because artists don't really understand it, scientists don't really understand why they should do it. And you know, when you bring it together, you just have to deal with your intentions, and that's what I'm trying to do.
Okay.
Yeah.